my bad. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Rule 34 Podcast Season 3. I'm your host Jack, joined by my fellow co-host
Dominic Castillo.
I forgot my name. Gio, I think.
Alright, so we are back. How have you all been?
Have been pretty cool. Everything has been, I guess, smooth sailing for the time being. Work. I think I already turned in my 2-week notice from my old job, and now I'm going to be very soon entering into the new one very soon. But aside from that, nothing else much has happened ever since.
Interesting. What about you, Gio?
I messed up pretty badly yesterday at work, and it was very embarrassing. But besides that, it's been kind of chill, like usual.
Alright, that's good to hear. I've been doing pretty good as well, too. Trying to think what, has happened. I mean, obviously, today's topic happened, and we're going to be getting into that soon, but, I think other than that, I've just been doing pretty well. I started reading One Piece in hopes of, progressing through it faster than it was taking me while watching. And it proved already much quicker as I've made it through, 100-something chapters than it would have taken me watching, 200 episodes. I progressed faster just by reading. Because, I think I'm on, chapter... I don't remember what chapter I'm on. But I read through, a good, 100-something chapters in, one day. Versus what I could only accomplish is, 20 episodes in a day. I don't know.
Jeez.
I think I'll always be a manga reader over an anime watcher. Just because, for me, I guess... I don't know, maybe it's a thing of I don't have patience, but, I guess it's, it's much harder for me to sit down and watch, knowing I can read and accomplish what I was going to watch at a much quicker pace. I don't know, what about you,
Gio? I think I gave Demon Slayer, the manga, a try. But the thing that really, bugs me is having to use a website to watch it, to read it. I mean, and I don't know, that just kind of bothered me. But if I had the actual books, or the actual manga, I could pretty much kill it pretty quickly. And yeah, I guess it's just having the actual books would be determining factor for me. Because the manga's watching anime. I mean, I don't know why I'm messing up so much today. Watching the anime, specifically Demon Slayer, is very entertaining. The last season was very, very good in my opinion, but there's something about just the pace of manga is just so much different than anime, and I think I liked it better. It's just the having to read it on a website on my phone is what killed it for me.
Yeah, I definitely feel I'm not 100% obviously there's many out there where it's I enjoy reading and watching, when it comes to Demon Slayer, it's it's cool to read because you said the pace, but also it's cool to watch because of the animation that you get, because I mean, why would you want to miss out on watching the stuff you read anime, especially if it's going to get good animation like Demon Slayer or Attack on Titan gets, but I think my thing with One Piece is that and it's really just an issue more so with the animation studio. So One Piece doesn't have a lot of filler, actually. Very rarely, they only get for every arc, there's only I want to say 2-3 episodes of filler, and those usually happen at the end rather than in the middle of stuff. But the issue with that is that it leads to them really stretching things out in one episode, and it's something that they're really having an issue with now because the anime, it's not really caught up. Well, it is technically caught up with the manga, in the sense of if they adapted it as normally, they would run out of material to animate for the next week's episode. So like the anime in its current form right now has taken up this thing where they animate almost like every chapter that comes out rather than waiting for like, I guess, like multiple chapters. And so you have one half-hour episode where it's covering just a single chapter, and so you get these points where it's like they're stretching out essentially one panel for like 5 minutes. So like you get, and like they make it even worse where it's like you get like 6 minutes of recaps, these stretched out scenes from that chapter, and then to be continued again. And like it even happened in its early stages where I still love like going to watch certain episodes and stuff, and I'm still like trying to watch at the same time, so like I'm getting the experience of both. But like there are certain times where it's like you have a fight going on, and it's like they're like stretching it out for like multiple episodes. Like that's what made there's a certain arc called Sky Island. That's what made it so boring to me, was it's like it kept stretching so many things out that could have been like finished so quickly. And so it's like my whole thing is the animation studio kind of takes up I guess you could call it dang, I don't even know what the word is, like unconventional, I guess you could say, approach to it, where it's like the way they adapt the manga is just, it really draws it out and makes it kind of tough to sit through and watch at certain points. Because I mean, it's still a very good anime and manga, but like I've had more joy reading it because it's like it's just so much quicker and to the point.
I think a lot of like the OG animes have that issue, or like animes have been going on for a long, long time. Because you have Dragon Ball used to be like that. Like the earlier seasons of Dragon Ball used to be like that. But now with when Super came out, it was kind of like that, but not really. It was a lot faster compared to like the other seasons. And then there's obviously Naruto and Bleach. And when I was watching Bleach, I think there was certain moments with like, it's not like in One Piece where they have like filler episodes between like the main parts of a season, like in the middle of a season. They kind of have like one season that's kind of like focused on the main story, and then the next season might be like filler. So they kind of put the filler stuff, or like the side stories, between seasons. And some of it, that would have been really annoying if you were watching it as it was coming out. Because there were certain moments in that anime that was like really intense, and you just wanted to see that battle like finish out. But then you would have to watch like an entire season, and it wasn't even like a few episodes, maybe like more than 16 of just a random filler story. And I would imagine that would have pissed off a lot of people. But since I watched it now, I was able to skip forward. And speaking of Bleach, I'm very excited for the new season that's coming out at the end of 2022, because that animation, it looks so clean. I really recommend you give Bleach a try. Because like the graphics in the beginning, I mean, you watched One Piece, so you're like used to it by now. Like the earlier seasons are going to be very hard to watch because of the animation style, but towards the end it just gets so like crispy and perfect.
I've heard a lot about it. I'm thinking of giving it a shot. Obviously with a ton of stuff on my list, but I'm down to give it a shot, especially for the sake of reviewing it on the podcast. Another thing I want to add is that I think another reason I always prefer like reading the mangas over the anime, over watching the anime as well, is that what's it called? Sometimes they don't adapt everything, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
The biggest example I can give is Horimiya. It was only like a 13 episode like anime, and yet there's like 100 something chapters of the manga, and they skipped over so much, and so like so many people felt that certain characters didn't get enough time, or like a certain things didn't develop as properly, and it was like, well, what do you expect? The animation studio took a chance on it, didn't expect it to blow up, and then next thing you know, everyone loved it, and it was like, oh well, everyone who wants a season 2, there is no season 2 because we wasted it all on we basically, the way the anime finished was the way the manga finished, and they just skipped over a ton of stuff like in the middle, and then animes like One Piece have to suffer through like well, technically it's not just One Piece, like almost every anime for the most part has to suffer through certain censorships, I guess you could say, because there's like certain things in One Piece were more impactful in the manga, but then they get cut from the anime because they don't want to show it as much. But like I don't know, I guess that's my reason too, is that like for the most part the source material is rarely ever like messed with compared to when they have to animate it and they have to worry about like appeasing to like the censorship of other countries and stuff, because or not even just the censorship of other countries, it's like genuinely it's just like certain animation studios are like, we don't want to animate this as it is because maybe it's too like brutal to animate, or there's certain times where they don't animate it because it's like offensive in a way.
I think Attack on Titan was censored a lot in like the anime adaptation for that reason, because that anime is already gory enough. But imagine like all the stuff that they left out.
Yeah. I know there's like a ton of stuff from Attack on Titan that got left out. There was like certain ones, like the only ones on my mind right now are like the One Piece ones, because I'm currently at that point where they censored a lot of the stuff, because it was like during the big battle, and like they censored a lot of the stuff in the anime compared to what happened like in the actual manga. Real quickly before we move on to today's topic, Dom, do you have any thoughts on basically what you've been able to hear us talking about?
I understand that the manga bits. Oh, question.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like, I understand that length comes across drastically in terms of how like the actual anime progresses. Because as you mentioned, you were able to get through 100 chapters of One Piece way quicker than you got into 200 episodes, which I'm assuming would take 30. How long is each One Piece episode? 24 minutes? 30 minutes?
It's like about 30 minutes with like a 2-minute intro and maybe like a minute or two of recap, so about 25 minutes.
Jeez, and you were able to get through that 100 chapters in one day.
So look, so let me give you an accurate timeline. I started One Piece around like the end of February, beginning of March 2021. Up until now, I only got up till like 380 something episodes.
Interesting.
And that's because for a while I took a break because I was like, because the thing is, whenever I watch One Piece, like before I start reading, anytime I watch One Piece, it becomes a thing where that's the only thing I watch and I don't get to watch anything else.
Yeah.
But then also there was the whole Sky Island arc that I was saying Gio about. That was just it. I understand its significance to the story, but it also, the way it was paced in the anime was just so boring that like it literally caused me to stop watching for a bit before I got back into it and said, screw it, let's just get through this and push through, because I know the next arc is really good.
Yeah.
But so basically, within a year's time, while some people have progressed even further than I have at a more efficient pace, I've only gotten through like 380 something episodes. In one day, I basically got through 3 arcs worth of content by reading.
Just because, and that is interesting. But then again, when you're watching like the anime, you're kind of like forced to sit through the 25 minutes and like get to the end of it. Well, like when you're reading, you could just kind of like zoom at
I think the other
whatever
thing too
speed you want.
Is the like when it comes to battles, when you're reading the manga, it's not like anime where it's drawn out. You just, it's this one panel and then it transitions into something else. But continue, Dom, with the point you were gonna make.
Yeah, I just wanted to know considering the speed that it takes, is it better for it to end quicker or to stray longer with the actual anime itself? Because you're able to get through the whole a majority of the story, 1/3 I think at this point. Yeah, whatever. Quicker than the actual anime itself. So I'm not sure if it's better just to outright read the manga instead of having to watch the anime.
Well, I think
it's gonna take, because you have to stray through those entire 23 minutes if you want to catch the whole story. For the average enthusiast, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, it was like I was telling Gio. I think it's only an issue that One Piece has in the sense of it isn't like anime now where it's seasonal, I guess you could say. I mean, technically, I don't know if One Piece, I don't know how One Piece rolls with the anime, if they just all year round are animating and stuff, but the issue was it kind of kept catching up to the manga material, which in turn left it without much material to cover episode by episode, and so they got stuck in this loop of they'd catch up and they'd be stuck having to animate only one chapter, or even sometimes I've seen people talk they've animated half a chapter for an episode. Right, and so I think it's only an issue of One Piece where it's so drawn out. It's still good to watch. I really enjoyed watching it, and I'm still gonna watch it, of course, to see a lot of the stuff animated, because it's always cool to see a story brought to life. But its main issue is just it didn't find that common ground of telling the story in an efficient manner per se, which Gio brought up is an issue you see with a lot of the older anime, because they didn't believe in this season by season thing, or what we're used to now, where it's only 12 to 24 episodes a season, and then waiting the next year for the next season to come out.
Yeah,
it lived by this process of continuous, a continuous timeline of telling this story with little to no breaks, because I mentioned, One Piece doesn't have fillers, so it's they didn't have other animes filler to buy them time for the manga to progress enough for them to not catch up. It was just always, all right, well, we have our source material, but eventually they end up catching up and they struggle to really give themselves proper time.
Right. Interesting.
And when you think about it, it really does make a lot more sense to divide it into a seasonal thing, rather than just continuously release the content, because I don't know, at some point people are just gonna stop watching it because it's just, I don't know, too much content, the same thing. You have to be pretty a diehard fan to just continuously watch One Piece for an entire year, and then the next year, and then the third year. And I don't think I could be able to do that. But anyways, this is kind of a hot take segue. But speaking of things that seem drawn out, let's talk about our main topic, which is Joey Badass's new album, 2000. And yeah, let's get into it. Jack, I think you were pretty excited to talk about this, so why don't you start the conversation?
Alright, so Joey Badass is an artist I found, I don't remember what year, how long ago at this point, but I got introduced to his music, and basically he broke onto the scene with his mixtape 1999 when he was only 16 or 17, so he's a pretty young guy. He had his debut album Before the Money. He had All American Badass in 2017, if I remember correctly. And so it's been 5 years since he last dropped an album. And so he announced this one, 2000, which is essentially a follow-up to 1999, which kind of gave people the impression that he was going to be throwing it back to his older sound while maybe still incorporating a modern sort of a take on it. And yeah, I heard it announced. I was like, hey, first album in 5 years, much like Kendrick, who took how long did Kendrick take again, Dom? 5 years too, right?
Wasn't 5 or 6 years? Was
Yeah, it
it?
was like 5 or 6 years because
Yeah.
Damn came out in 2017 as well. Yeah, so 5 years, same as Kendrick. And he's known for being more like like a Kendrick or a J. Cole, where they're focused on lyricism rather than I don't know what's the way to describe it, like, because like I'm not gonna be like an old head. I know there's a difference, and like music has evolved, so I know like there's certain music that you listen to for the sake of just like, I don't know, I guess you say listening to and having like a good time listening to it, I guess is the proper way to describe it. Because like there's certain music that you just put on to listen to, and then there's other music where it's like almost in a sense like you have to be in a mood to listen to it, or it's like it's not to say that the other music doesn't have meaning, but it has meaning that really like it's like music that you have to like really pay attention to, I guess you could say. Because like with Kendrick, you're not just gonna randomly throw Kendrick Lamar's music on unless it's like certain songs that are like how would you say, like meant to be played, like at like I don't even know if you would say like certain songs are meant to be played at parties, but like they can be thrown on for the entertainment of others, I guess, where it's like you're not gonna throw on Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, which is like a 12-minute song. You're not gonna randomly throw that on for like everybody to listen to. That's like one day you just kind of sit there and reflect on by yourself while listening to it.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I was listening to the album, one thing that I noted down was that the lyricism was kind of on point. 'Cause I was honestly surprised because it's been, 2 years? This is like my first album, Western rap album that I've heard in 2 years, and I was very surprised because I was expecting like mumble rap and that kind of sound from this album. So when he was like, I pulled up the lyrics as I was listening to them and I was following along, and I was very surprised and kind of impressed by the way he like expressed certain ideas. And yeah, I think it was like the thing I didn't like about the album was it felt a lot of more of the same kind of vibe. So like the first 4 songs, I was kind of like into it, like, yo, the sound is interesting. It's kind of like more chill. I'm vibing with it. But then once I got to like from like songs 4 to 8, I was kind of like, oh, it's kind of more of the same. And then the last, I think, it has 14 songs. I think the last 7 or 6 were a little bit different. Like the sound, the beat was different, which is kind of it kind of made it better. But if I were to describe this album, it would basically be that, more of the same.
Interesting. Dom, what were your initial thoughts on the album?
Yeah, so I think accidentally for me, I kind of left it on shuffle, I think, so I listened to the songs out of order. Was there like a story in particular? Because I didn't listen. I read the lyrics, but was there like a whole story to be dictated with, or?
I think certain songs tie together at certain points. I don't think there's like a huge overarching story. Like I don't think this is like a storytelling album in the sense of like Dawn FM was, but it's one of those where I don't think there's like an overarching theme except for like many songs sharing a lot of the same topics. Yeah. I know for sure if you listen to Wanna Be Loved and Head High, because they're like back to back, there's like a really good overarching theme there where on Wanna Be Loved, it's really like talking about like them as a whole just wanting to feel accepted by society and not really held under a microscope when it comes to like criticism, where any little thing they do is like they're judged for it. It's immediately turned into a narrative for them, with the feature on there, Jid, talking about like he starts saying the story of this guy who was like recently released from jail, and tying again into the topic of that song, talking about how he has to be on top of everything because any little thing he does can get him sent right back into there. And he starts talking about how, like, this cycle that needs to be broken into communities because everybody's desperate for success, but they don't realize that there are other opportunities for them to get that success. And then the next track, Head High, Joey starts talking about, like the struggles that people go through in these communities, and more specifically how, like, they do all this stuff, but they do all this stuff for the block, but the lyric that he like says that really stuck with me was the block won't hug you back, which is kind of like saying, like, at the end of the day, everyone's trying to look for success in order to get out of these communities and cycles that they're stuck in, but they don't realize that by getting into these certain I guess you could say lifestyles, they're not realizing that at the end of the day, it doesn't have their best interest in mind, in the sense of, like, when it comes to, like, gang violence and stuff, when he's talking about, like, the block won't hug you back, you get into this lifestyle thinking, it secures you in the sense of, oh, you have these people who have your back, who will be there for you and help you out. But at the end of the day, people are selfish in the sense of, like, they only care about themselves, specifically when it comes to those communities that are suffering from gang violence. Everyone's trying their best to get out of there, That's everyone's number one goal, is to get out of there. And so that block will stab you in the back no matter how loyal you were to it, which ties back into want to be loved, talking about that. There's a cycle that needs to be broken, and people need to realize there's other opportunities out there for them rather than just sticking to that cycle that they found themselves stuck in, So that's like that's a certain point where you can see the story being told, but going back to your original point, I don't think there's a huge overarching story told.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
I think, my first impression of the song, begin with the baddest. It was pretty okay. The first 4 songs, I liked, especially like the jazz flow. I didn't think he would incorporate like light piano, jazz, especially with like Written in the Stars.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I keep getting like a Tyler of the Creator feel, like back in like Flower Boy. I just don't know why. Like the incorporation of piano, the incorporation of like low, like I'm not sure how to call it, like a sort of jazz. I forgot what kind of jazz it's called, but like lounge jazz. Like you're sitting in a lounge and you just have nice jazz. But the stories that as you mentioned, they are pretty tough. And unfortunately, me being me, I can't relate to it 100% right there and then. But as you stated before, Joseph, we're just simply bystanders of everything. Yet we do observe everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's the one thing I always mention when we review this stuff, because I don't want people trying to say that we're uneducated on the topic, or we're trying to like speak on situations we don't know. It's like, yeah, I can't relate to 100% of the stuff Joey talks about, Kendrick talks about. Got different lifestyles, got different upbringings. They grew up definitely in different times. They're much older than us. Joey's a bit closer to us in age, but he's still older than us. But doesn't mean that for the most part things have changed in those areas. We still see this stuff on the daily. I mean, it's not to the level of the stuff they talk about, but come on. Yesterday I literally shared a notification with these two that there was a group of, I guess, men fighting each other like a block away from me with sticks and bats. It's like, and you look at that and it's like, what was the point of all that? Like, it was probably for some stupid reason, but people are still thinking like that's the way to go with certain things. But I like the point that you added, Dom, that you said like you had a lounge feel to it. And I think what added to that was the narrations at points in the songs, from Diddy and Nas, was like, like it really sounds like they're like standing on a stage of like a lounge, like the way like the music sounds when they're during the narrations. and the way that both of them like kind of like introduce like Joey like in their narrations, it really sounds like they're standing on like one of those small stages in the lounge, introducing like as if he's like a young up and comer to like go up there and like try and make a name for himself.
Yeah,
I get that feel too. One thing I want to ask is because it was something that caught me off guard. It was something that really, like, I really thought it was this person. When you listen to Cruise Control for the first time, was I the only one that thought that was Frank Ocean on the track? And keep in mind, I only thought this because I've never heard Joey Badass, in a sense, have a melodic, like, I've never heard him essentially sing like this. Even on All American Badass, where he had, a couple songs where he added more melody to it, I've never heard this from him. And when I heard it, I was like, oh, this man really got Frank Ocean on the song. But then when I started searching up, and I was like, wait, people aren't talking about this? And that's when I searched it up, Joey Badass Cruise Control on Twitter, and that's when I saw people were like, oh yeah, this is actually him singing, not anyone else. And I was like, it caught me so off guard, because that's not something I'm used to hearing from him.
I'll be honest, I wasn't thinking about. I was just into the lyrics, but you do have a point down. I listened to the song twice, not the K-pop group. It now that you mentioned it, it does carry some sort of resemblance, but I just keep thinking it's just Joey Badass in my ears the whole time.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I have
that's me.
I have more experience with him than I thought it was, but like I was just like, I heard it and I was like, I can't imagine any way this being Joey. So like the next person in my head was like, it has to be Frank Ocean. It sounds too much like Frank Ocean, only to turn out it wasn't him. There's a specific track I want to talk about, but I want to know, like, was there any other like songs that stood out to you? I know for me, Show Me was definitely one of like the songs I really enjoyed the most, because of like everything on it was just like it fit perfectly, the mood of the song, the chorus, the vocal tone. On the opposite side of the spectrum, Welcome Back, I just didn't enjoy at all. Like, no pulling punches, man. That thing was terrible to me. I didn't enjoy that track. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if that's like a hot take amongst people, but I didn't enjoy that track. And I know the one that's definitely a hot take, I'm still having to give it multiple listens to see like if it'll grow on me. But Brand New 911 featuring West Side Gun, I don't know what it is about that song, but I just can't get into it.
Yeah, I wrote that down in my notes. I put Brand New 911 equals Miss, because I gave it 2 listens. One time when I was at work, and then another time today here in like my setup, and I just couldn't get into it. Like, something about just, I would say it would be like the voices, or like their voice, that kind of like put me off of the song. Because I'm sure the lyrics are worth looking at, but I don't know, I just couldn't get into it because of the way it sounded, and the beat wasn't to my taste, I'd say.
What about you, Dom? Any other like standout tracks too?
Yeah, so the last 3, Head High, Survivor's Guilt, Written in the Stars. Those I personally love. The orchestrated part of an orchestra. That hit its hard. Like if I'm listening to like an Evangelion like outro or something. But
I don't know. Sorry,
yeah.
I just want to real quickly say I don't know if it actually is, but on Written in the Stars, he I think it's Diddy. He tells him if you want to be great, you're gonna have to be able to like do this in front of like a live. Basically like a live band, adding to the lounge feel to it. And so like I don't know if that was truly like a live band that he was doing the song over, but if it was, like you said, that was a really good part of it.
Yeah, 100%, bro. It's but like that feeling. It just feels like, I don't know, like that one SpongeBob meme where it's just levitating in the air with the Kanye sound, the Kanye in the background. It's just, I personally love it. I absolutely love when they incorporate like pianos, violins, and all that stuff into like rap songs. It's a huge contrast, in my opinion, when you incorporate like classical music, and then you incorporate the story that comes with the rapping, or the overall the lyricism from the artist.
Let's Get Naked by Bae Young.
Yeah, Bae Young, yeah. Bae Young, for those who don't know, is a sort of a vaporwave. Really good music.
Yo, you cut out a bit there, but
tell them who Bae Young is.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
No, continue.
Tell them who Bae Young.
Oh yeah, Bae Young, very good vaporwave artist from around 2016, 2017, 2018. Made absolute classics back in the day. Incorporating old school type of slowed music. However, incorporated his own, I guess, chimes and tunes to, I guess, elevate the feeling of the old school music per se. But yeah.
We have about like 8 minutes and 20 seconds left, so with like closing in, I just want to really highlight a specific track that like I think to everyone it's the standout. Survivor's Guilt. So I'll give you a bit of like backstory to it because I know you guys aren't familiar with the artist, but first off, Dom, did you notice that Survivor's Guilt? I don't know if it's exact, but to me it literally sounds like it's using the same drum kit as Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst from Kendrick.
I don't think
like
about
when
it.
you listen to the beginning, like after this, go back and listen to it. Like listen to the beginning of Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. Listen to Survivor's Guilt as well, like the beginning parts. I swear it's the same drum kit, and I swear it's perfection from Joey because the two tracks are just so similar, especially in the sense of the content they're talking about. So, Survivor's Guilt, the backstory behind it, obviously he's talking about, I think it's probably one of his other, like either friends or like actual family members because he describes both his brothers, but one of them, like later in the track, I don't know too much about, but he talks about, losing someone in his life and that they didn't even make it to 25, but what I do have knowledge on is the first half of that song. He's talking about his fellow Pro-Era member, Capital Steez, who the two of them really broke onto the scene at the same time when they were young, around like 16, But Steez ended up killing himself back in I forget what year it was, but it was like, I think it was on like Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, one of the two. He basically like, I remember it was like he just put out like a tweet saying the end, and he ended up like to go into details, he ended up killing himself by jumping off a building. And like the really sad part was that when they found his body, they found him clutching a Bible to his chest. But so that was a really close, like that was basically his best friend in life, to Joey. And what made it really sad was that like people really tried to put the blame on Joey for his death, because what happened was, Joey ends up blowing up on the scene with 1999, while it's not necessarily he was left behind because they were still doing stuff together, but like Steez wasn't seeing the same growth with his career. And like how Joey says on the song, he was trying to like tell him, you just got to be like patient with things, but like, there was a difference of mindset where Joey was willing to wait things out and really watch the rise happen, while Steez was kind of like, he's human just like any of us who, many of us feel the same. I know I feel the same at times where it's like if I don't see the success, if I don't see the growth happening right in front of me, I feel like things are failing and aren't going the way they are supposed to, and that's kind of, the mindset he was in. And, like he says on the track, definitely had a lot going on with him mentally, but try and tell that to people back in those days, no one was going to listen. It's not like nowadays where, it's still a struggle to get people to listen and really talk about mental health nowadays, but it was even worse back in those times where it's like no one was listening to you talk about that stuff. No one really believed in any of that stuff, despite all the evidence pointing to the fact that, people were suffering in these days, but it's really a highlight track for me, and it's just so beautiful that, like, it's like he says, it took him all these years to really talk, because, he even talked about, like, Steez's own family tried to blame it on him, and, he doesn't hold any ill will towards them, he understands that, you know, they were just grieving and stuff, but he wasn't going to allow them to really pin that blame on him when, you know, in his eyes, he did all that he could, and it was just it just came down to a difference of mindsets, you know. But there's like 4 minutes left, so I'm sorry for speaking so much. But what were your guys' thoughts on that track specifically?
To be honest, I wasn't like fully aware of everything. Like I didn't know like that information, but now that you kind of like explained it to me, it just makes it like it wasn't. I don't know. It's just kind of like a whole new level to that song, and like I don't know, to hear the way that artist went out is honestly very sad. And I'm definitely going to give that song another listen. Kind of like hear it in this new perspective.
What about you?
Yeah, so with the story that you mentioned, just like Gio, I'm going to give it another listen. The first time listening to it, I really enjoyed it. I think, however, I guess a bit of a hot take. Everyone is either going to really hate or really love Welcome Back. I think that's the song that hits the heart the most. But I think it's like the most out of touch. I think, because I think we all know what the song is meant to mean. But it's just like, this is like a harsh story. All the rest of the songs are like, it's the story that's incorporated. And then just Welcome Back just throws you in there. But aside from that.
Wait, before we end, I just want to clarify something. In the beginning, I said that it was more of the same. I wasn't speaking about the lyrics themselves. I was more of just like the sound of the album, and each song was similar to each other. I just want to clarify that because the lyrics obviously have like very deep meanings and are about serious topics, and I don't want to like seem that I'm like putting it down when I'm really not. Yeah.
Understandable. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts from you two as we have 2 minutes left?
I think we should rank the album.
Yeah. So, what would your guys' rating be for the album?
Honestly, I'd give it like a 7 out of 10.
I would give it an 8. I would give it an 8.
All right. So, not to be pretentious, but I went back and looked at my previous ratings because you know how Dom and I specifically talked about, you know, obviously our ratings will change over time, especially, you know, as you give the music more time. So my previous rankings was like, I gave Post a 6, Kendrick's album a 9, Denzel's album an 8 or 9. I wasn't really like definitive on it, and The Weeknd's album a 9. After hearing this album, my rankings go as the following now. Post is still a 6. I'm moving Kendrick down to like an 8, but more so like between a 7.5 and an 8. I've re-listened to Denzel's because like this album really got me re-listening to stuff. That's the only reason I'm bringing this up. It really got me re-listening to really think of what my definitive rankings for the years are. And re-listening to Denzel's boosted it up to a 9. The Weeknd's After All This Time is a 9.5 to me. Like that's still one of the top contenders that I've been really enjoying. And this album I'm going to give a 9.5 as well. I know it's very different from you guys. But that's really the point of this, is would you really listen if we all had the same opinions on an album? But that's my ranking for it. With that being said, I've been your host, Jack, joined by my fellow co-hosts.
Dominic Castillo.
And Gio.
I want to thank you all for joining us for another episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. We will see you all Thursday, where we will be giving an anime review of... dang it, why did I forget? Oh my gosh, this is so terrible. 10 seconds left. I got to pull it up. Dom, do you remember the anime off the top of your head?
A place
Further
further
than the universe. There we go.
Yes.
See you all Thursday.